What's up with the hate for FEMA? The real stupidity is that states do not put sufficient funds aside to deal with natural disasters. If states funded disaster relief based on insurance estimates, there would be no need for FEMA. They use it as a crutch, fight to cut funding, and wonder why we are in the same loop. After Hurricane Katrina, FEMA became known as Fix Everything My Ass. My personal experience is receiving in the same day an approval for aid and a denial rescinding the approval. FEMA tends to botch their response under Democratic and Republican leadership alike. Think about who they are dealing with at any given time. Usually people who have lost absolutely everything. Even if FEMA was knocking it out of the park, you can't exactly expect them to be happy about the situation. Having been the guy directing traffic after a car crash and having to tell people they can't take the way they always go home, I can tell you unhappy campers are everywhere, even when you're trying to help, but their frustration is understandable. I think there are a couple things going on there. First, they don't want to fund FEMA, in the classic Republican fuck you if something happens to you, pay for it yourself mode. Second, there's a long standing conspiracy theory about FEMA camps that somehow the govt is going to put everyone, Christians. It's unclear, for reasons that are unclear. Like 20 years ago, Alex Jones was yelling about FEMA was going to round people up in rail cars, and people were sending him photos of what they thought were cattle cars with chains in them. Spoiler, they were just rail cars used to transport automobiles that are delivered by ship. Then during W. Bush, FEMA fucked up the response to Hurricane Katrina, and so this whole narrative that they were incompetent. So now you have MAGA on the scene where they have to have a boogeyman, and FEMA is easy to blame for stuff. Asheville, NC, probably the biggest impacted city from the hurricane, is literally in the mountains. Yet, it's FEMA fault for not being ready for a mountain city to be flooded by a hurricane? Then there is Tampa, St. Pete, where the fucktards get hit by a hurricane every 5 years and bitch about why they aren't rescued by FEMA. It's not FEMA fault. Natural disasters happen. It's not the taxpayer's job to fund every potential disaster. We need to have more empathy. You're reading it from Twitter, where people literally said live on camera that Hitler did nothing wrong and Churchill bad. Twitter is not a real life, and honestly the quality of the actual people still there got badly diluted by all sorts of people. The GOP hates FEMA for two reasons. Firstly, it's welfare that doesn't go towards lining their pockets. Secondly, it's aid for poor and disadvantaged people who are obviously subhuman filth. They don't believe the federal government should be in charge of managing disaster assistance. Yes, really. It's the product of a conspiratorial mindset and a lack of trust in experts and institutions. FEMA is far from the only govt agency they are obsessed with. Blame FEMA was the Bush excuse while the alcoholic was asleep at the wheel. MAGA does not approve of helping either people. They serve the wealthy, corporations, and landlords, and their donors expect laws and policies that enrich them. The reason they hate FEMA is because the government is helping citizens experiencing a disaster without exploiting them. They want to privatize this so they can profit from it. They have had PACs, think tanks, and right-wing radio pushing this successfully for 40 years. FEMA provides a great service, but there is a capitalist who will do a worse job for twice the money, but they have to convince the public that all govt is evil so it can then be privatized. Propaganda is so effective it's scary. It's like complaining about the DMV. It is easy and cheap to blame FEMA. It only appears when things are really going wrong and all previous mechanisms have failed because the damage is simply enormous, and it is an opportunity to blame the government. It is as if the fire department were to be held responsible for San Francisco in 1906, just like Trump is inciting against immigrants when the entire economy would collapse without them. Everyone knows that. But it is an opportunity to mobilize those who have received too little help, i.e. everyone, and at the same time complain about the help they have received, the ungrateful ones. Cheap populism that gathers those who are left behind. I have received too little help and it is your fault. It is amazing how many people in the country of living personal responsibility are gathering and blaming society, and all under the slogan Make America Great Again. You have to think about that first. Remember Katrina? That's the first I heard of FEMA. George W. Bush put someone who had previously been in charge of the Arabian Horse Association in charge of it. He hired a vanity horse guy to run a national logistics organization that's supposed to render immediate aid during national disasters. They fucked up. The horsey guy didn't know shit. Surprise. So people don't trust them. They tried to claim Biden blocked sending FEMA help to victims of Hurricane Helene, and FEMA said they were lying. Now they are the bad guy. At least that's the TL:DR version. FEMA has been a lightning rod for conspiracy nuts for a long time. I can remember in the 90s they would be going on about concentration camps, and here's a picture of FEMA ordering thousands of plastic coffins to bury all the people they plan to kill. It flared up again around the Obama administration when conservatives were constantly convinced that he was going to kill or imprison them for some reason. It is an election season, and there is an Instagram meme going around that says FEMA is out of money because they spent it all on illegal immigrants, or FEMA is out of money because Biden sent all the money to Ukraine. It isn't true, and FEMA didn't spend all their money on illegal immigrants, and there is no relation to Ukraine. However, that doesn't seem to matter right now before the election. Apparently, according to MAGA, FEMA is in some deep state along with the Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve, BLS, the FBI, and the Secret Service that are all trying to rig the election. Since Kamala is polling better than Trump right now, MAGA is already trying to jam up their next stolen election excuse. I can't make this stuff up. Right-wing nuts. They thought Obama was going to lock everyone up in FEMA camps. I suspect it's because they are the people that turn up when times are tough, and when times are tough people like to have someone to blame. Because saying this all sucks, because it's a fucking natural disaster that just happened, because that's what natural disasters do and you can't control it, and knowing you can lose it all in a blink of a fucking eye is scary as fuck for a lot of people. Grief and shock make people angry. Anger needs a target.